Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be talking about NCHRP Project 08119, Data Integration, Sharing, and Management for Transportation Planning and Traffic Operations. So just a quick overview of my presentation. I'm going to give a little bit of information on the project, talk about the research approach, the research products that are currently under development, and a timeline for product availability. So NCHRP 08119 began almost 3 years ago, September 2019. It's still ongoing. The objective of the project is to develop tools, methods, and guidance for improving data integration, sharing, and management practices to enable transportation agencies in collaboration with private sector and public sector stakeholders to make better planning and operations decisions. I have a great team working on this project. It's AEM Corporation, Jacobs, McGurran Consulting, and Pat Noyes and Associates. And we are hoping to wrap up all of the draft products by the end of this year, and hoping that the project will probably be over. We are currently working on extending it a bit, but looking to have it fully wrapped up by the second quarter of 2023. So the research approach involved 5 phases that were in the work plan. The information gathering and planning, which was about the first year or so of the project, was really doing a broad sweep across a wide range of operations and planning use cases. And so things like, work zones, freight, connected automated vehicles, shared mobility, ICM, et cetera, and conducting a lot of interviews and doing research and trying to identify where there were challenges, gaps, or limitations within these use case areas for data sharing, integration, and management. So where agencies were working to share data or integrate data or manage data, where were there challenges that could possibly be addressed with this research project. Phase 2 was documentation of best practices, lessons learned, and also, again, challenges and limitations. So this phase is also complete, and it resulted in a website, which I'll talk about in a minute, because it's one of the products or outputs of the research. Phase 3 was to develop products. So at the end of phase 1, the research team, we put together, I think it was over 30 potential products. And again, those products could be tools, methods, guidance that would be available for agencies to help improve data sharing, integration, and management. So we went through all of the challenges and limitations across all of the planning and operations use cases, and we recommended or developed potential products that could be developed as part of this research for the panel. And the panel reviewed those and kind of weighted and rated, and we narrowed it down initially to 8 products out of 30 some that we would focus on. And those products have been modified a little bit as we've continued the research, and some have been replaced or added. And that's really the primary focus of my presentation, is to go over those products that are currently being developed. Phases 4 and 5 are really kind of sequentially happen as we develop the products. We're trying to work whenever possible with agencies and organizations and stakeholders for these products, and work to get their inputs into the product, and then ask them to review the products and provide feedback so that they will be applicable and useful to the industry. So this is the list of 11 products that were either have completed or are currently working on. And I won't read this list because I have a slide on each one. But it differs a little bit from many NCHRPs that might result in a final guidebook or a final research report, or maybe both. In this case, we're really focusing on developing these products for these specific use cases. and there won't be a final guidebook or a final research report. Rather, we've got these 11 different products that we're working to develop as outputs for the research. So just starting to go down the list of the products that we're working on, I mentioned that the outputs of phase 2 were documentation of lessons learned and best practices. And we have done that in the form of a web-based research library. So we have a draft version of the website that still needs to go through TRB publications review. It presents the relevant knowledge, use cases, data sets, metadata, tools, et cetera, that were identified in that first phase of the research. You will also have all of the research products will be available on the website here. They'll also be available on TRB's website, but can access them through this website as well as additional resources that have been uncovered throughout we did a lot of research in phase 1, but then we've also done additional research in the development of the individual products. And so where we've identified additional resources that might not fit within the structure that we developed at the end of phase 1, we've added additional resources. And these are sort of cross-referenced across these areas. The data application areas are connected and automated vehicles, crowdsourcing, freight, ICM, planning, shared mobility, smart cities, traffic incident management, transit ITS, and work zones. And we're hoping that this will be available via the NCHRO website this fall. And so we have been working with the AASHTO Data Committee to kind of find a home for this, and NCHRO was generous enough to offer to host this for the project. So we've developed a shared mobility data resource guide. This is a curated guide to reference material to help agencies plan for, manage, and use shared mobility data. It categorizes and summarizes the content of 40 references so that the reader can identify quickly, which of the resources best address their needs and issues. As you go through, it summarizes the relevant literature, provides sample documents and agreements, discusses relevant standards and open source software, talks about the organizations that are active in this area, and provides examples of data sets and dashboards. Again, we reached out to industry, a lot of the organizations and agencies that are active in this area, got a lot of input, did a lot of research to find what resources were out there, and pulled this together and had it reviewed again by some of the people that were interviewed, and got some very positive feedback on the document itself. And this was just recently approved for publication by TRB. So this guidance document can be made available at this point. Data decision tree for big data and freight transportation planning operations. The target audience for this is freight transportation planners seeking guidance on which data sources best address their specific planning and operations use cases. And specifically, it highlights available big data sources and other complementary sources to address these use cases. It's built using a JavaScript library. And it's like a tree. So when you click on one node, it sort of opens up and you can kind of follow the specific, applications to the data sources for a particular use case. And once you click on that, it expands information on the data source. It shows metadata for that particular data source, as well as different use cases that are out there that have been done by agencies. And this was based on research and input from 7 state DOTs, the Eastern Transportation Coalition, and a private freight subject matter expert. The draft product has been approved by the panel, and we're hoping that the final tool should be available this fall. And this next slide gives you a little bit of an idea of the visual, starting with the freight data use cases. and how you can kind of click on these various nodes and the tree expands until you get to a data set, and then you can get information on that data set. This is the metadata, but you can also click on the use cases and see how the data has been applied for specific use cases by agencies. Guidance and demonstration for improved conflation and geodata reference process. This product has been named Linker AT, and basically what it does is it cross-references disparate network data using a modified network conflation process. It was specifically designed to cross-reference Arnold network data with the TMC network data. And what it does is it updates the Arnold base network by adding links and nodes so that it better matches the TMC segmentation. It's an open source JavaScript program running in a standard Windows environment. It has all of the libraries and instructions built in, so there aren't any special libraries needed. It's a simple web-based browser user interface. It outputs updated GeoJSON files, including cross-references for associated TMC IDs. And it's easily modified by built-in routines to help states customize the operation for their specific inputs and specifications. And currently we're working with Colorado DOT to test it out. And we have run it for the Colorado network. And that's a map kind of the outputs of the process run, or the software run for the Colorado Arnold and TMC data. But Colorado is going to be testing it for more recent TMC and Arnold data sets, and hopefully, working with the DOT to get some inputs to how we can improve the documentation of the guidance or the process itself. Guide for managing sensitive shared mobility data. This is helping to inform public agency managers on issues relating to protecting sensitive information that might be gathered as part of shared mobility and micro-mobility programs, such as scooter and bike sharing services and ride sharing and ride hailing services. And the sensitive data that's covered is really data that could be associated with identifying specific individuals, or data that might be considered proprietary by the service providers. So the guide provides recommendations and guidance for how to protect the sensitive information through a step-by-step process that looks at determining the use cases where the data are needed, identifying what types of data are needed and what subset of the data might contain proprietary or PII. And then providing guiding principles and policies for managing the data and describing protection mechanisms to secure the data. And this product the draft has been submitted and is under review by the project panel. Using connected vehicle data and data fusion to supplement transportation systems management. So this product provides guidance to establishing uses of CV data for planning, operational, and safety analyses. And the purpose is to bridge the gap between CV and ITS systems and discuss opportunities to develop infrastructure while advancing the quality and resolution of the data. The guide discusses general CV system architecture, CV standards, a data fusion methodology, and then various vehicle and pedestrian use cases for transportation management with CV systems data. And we're just about to finish up the draft product, and hopefully we'll get that submitted to the panel very shortly. Another product is agency case studies on the use of smart work zone devices for work zone data feeds. So this product focuses on kind of highlighting current and future practices for integrating smart work zone data with agency work zone data, and particularly the work zone data exchange specification feeds that are being developed by many agencies. When we talk about smart work zone technology, the case studies will cover roadside devices such as smart arrow boards, connected cameras, and connected geolocated pins, as well as technologies such as dash cam videos and automated image resolution or recognition that helps to identify work zone locations. And we are working with a number of agencies to develop case studies for their current and kind of future practices, including Iowa, RTC, Southern Nevada, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Washington State, and also the Road Device Feed Project. And this project this product is currently under development, and we're hoping to have the draft complete by the end of August. Another product fostering interoperability between freight data sources. So NCHRO Report 35, implementing the Freight Transportation Data Architecture Data Element Dictionary, identified the need for an interoperable freight data exchange format to help address differences in data element definitions across data sets. And so the hope for this pilot product is to develop a preliminary interoperable freight data system architecture. And we're working with stakeholders to explore some of the strengths and weaknesses of a data interoperability structure, a specific one, as well as the opportunities and challenges in adopting it. And so this is currently under development, and the figure out to the right is just an attribute mapping of how we're looking at various attributes of the data, different data sources, and trying to map those across in developing this architecture. State of the practice for ICM systems. This is at the very beginning stages of development. It is providing sort of an update on recent ICMs and really looking at agency use cases, recurring challenges, lessons learned, particularly when it comes to data needs and agencies' needs when you're integrating or working with different agencies that might have different objectives for the corridor, and how those are addressed and overcome. Data use for operational improvements, and recommendations for improving interagency coordination. Traffic incident management data guides. This product is also at the very early stages of development. The focus here, it's really 3 short guides that will focus on communicating information about sharing, integration, and management of data to support TIM performance measurement. So there'll be a TIM data sharing guide that, because you've got so many different groups in traffic incident management, DOTs and external partners like law enforcement and fire and rescue and towing. And there are challenges with sharing data across. And so this will focus on, some of the lessons learned and recommendations and benefits of doing that. And then the last bullet will kind of stem from those lessons learned in an outreach document that transportation agencies can share with their partners to help encourage data sharing and discussions about data sharing. And then there'll also be a short guide on data quality and use and some of the limitations of the current data sets and how to improve incident data. And then finally, use and value of crowdsourced data integration. Again, these will be a couple of short guides on the challenges, lessons learned, steps taken, and recommended actions for integrating and using crowdsourced data. And a lot of this will stem from the Federal Highway Everyday Counts 5 and 6 initiatives that have been going on over the last 4 years. There's a lot of states that Federal Highway has been working with to advance their maturity in using crowdsourced data, particularly for operations. And so these guides will be based a lot on the case studies of the uses and lessons learned and challenges from those EDC initiatives. Project timeline, I kind of tried to say as we went through where we were with the product development. We do have 1 product available for publication, several drafts under review by the panel, and hopefully will be available for publication this year. Hoping to have all the products drafts completed by the end of this year. And once the online resource website is approved, we will be adding those, making that website available and adding those products for public consumption. And again, project ends approximately May of next year. And I just wanted to share some of the team's contact information. Again, a really great team of people helping to leading the development of these products. So if you're want to know more about the products, I'm certainly happy to address any questions, but Dan at CETA at Jacobs is leading the freight tools. Mike McGurran has led the shared mobility guides. At Granzo of Jacobs, the conflation tool, and Brian Burkhard of Jacobs, the ICM product, and Vaishali Shah, the crowdsourcing products. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to address any questions.